Welcome to the latest edition of the Investing Intel podcast. Today, we have a sponsored deep dive on Atlas Salt, a Newfoundland-based salt producer capturing market attention in a stable sector. It's November 2024, and today's episode has been produced and disseminated on behalf of Atlas Salt Inc. The full disclosure for this episode can be found in the show notes or at valuethemarkets.com/disclosure/Atlas-Salt-Inc. As we always say, we encourage you to do your own research before making any investment decisions. The information provided is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. While this is a sponsored episode, we do not cover companies we do not believe have a good story to tell investors. Atlas Salt is an interesting business operating in a defensive market. This company is flying under the retail investing radar, while a highly skilled team forges ahead with financing and construction efforts. Reasons to take a closer look at Atlas include a valuable long-term asset that is projected to produce for decades. 50% of its production is already allocated to a strategic offtake agreement. A notable pick in North America's domestic sourcing shift. A focus on green, low-carbon practices. So, without further delay, let's dive into today's episode.
All right, so today we're diving into something you probably don't think about a lot, but you use every day. Salt.
Yeah.
But not just any salt. This time we're going deep on Atlas Salt and their Great Atlantic Salt Project.
Okay.
Which is in Newfoundland, Canada.
Interesting.
And what really got me interested in this is how this project is really kind of changing things up.
Right.
When it comes to the salt scene, location and sustainability, and of course the economic potential.
Yeah.
And especially when you think about road salt for the East Coast.
Okay.
And just a little tidbit to kind of put this in perspective. North America imports 18 million tons of salt every year.
Wow.
Which is actually a full 25% of the demand.
Yeah, so that's a huge market.
You can see why a local source like this is pretty interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
And one of the things that stands out to me about Atlas Salt is they're not just located anywhere in Newfoundland.
Right.
They're really strategically positioned to be a major player in the road salt market for the entire eastern seaboard.
Yeah, they're in a really good spot.
They're basically neighbors with all the key markets, the U.S., East Coast, Quebec, New England, the maritime provinces.
Yeah, all right there.
So it seems like they've really thought about kind of cutting down on those long, expensive shipping routes.
Right, and transportation is a big factor in the salt industry. So being close to their customers like that gives them a real edge.
Has to, yeah.
It's not just the location, though. They also have the infrastructure.
Oh, okay.
To make it all work. They have direct access to the Trans-Canada Highway, a dedicated port facility.
Yeah.
A whole system ready to move the salt, and they're right next to a major power line.
So it sounds like they're ready
to go.
Thought of everything.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious about what kind of impact this project could have on Newfoundland and Labrador.
Oh, yeah. It's big.
Yeah.
We've got these numbers from the Independent Economic Impact Report by Jupia Consultants, and they're pretty amazing.
Yeah.
They're projecting that this project could boost the province's GDP by like $4.8 billion.
Whoa, billions with a B. Okay. Breaks that down for me, though.
Sure.
What does that kind of growth actually look like?
Well, for one thing, it translates to $2.5 billion in employment income.
Wow.
So that means more money
Right.
in the pockets of people in the region.
Right.
And of course, with more spending power, you have a boost in annual household spending. So they're projecting $1.9 billion.
So like new businesses, more jobs, like a ripple effect?
Exactly, a ripple effect through the whole economy.
That's a massive win for Newfoundland and Labrador.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Now it almost sounds too good to be true.
Right.
But we haven't even talked about the environmental side of things.
Sure.
How does a massive salt mining operation like this, fit in with sustainability?
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that makes this project really stand out.
Okay.
Atlas Salt is seriously committed to being green. They want to keep their footprint small. Their direct greenhouse gas emissions, what we call Scope 1, are projected to be only 79 tons of CO2 equivalent per year.
Okay.
And even when you factor in the indirect emissions from electricity, which is Scope 2, it's still only 2,293 tons.
That's really low for a mining operation.
It is. They're doing some really innovative things.
What are they doing? How are they pulling that off?
Well, for one thing, they're going all electric.
Cool.
They're going to use battery electric vehicles for the whole operation.
So that cuts down on the fossil fuels.
Exactly. It really cuts down on those emissions.
It's pretty bold for a mining company.
You don't see it that often.
So they're going electric to cut emissions. What other green steps are they taking?
Well, they're also focused on dust control. They're using covered conveyors, dust collection systems.
Okay.
All these measures help to protect the ecosystem around the mine.
So they're really taking care of the surrounding area.
They are. They want to minimize their impact. They're also committed to responsible land management.
So it's good to see a company taking all that into account.
Yeah, definitely.
But with all this green tech, I can't help but wonder about the financial side of things.
Sure.
Is it affecting their bottom line?
Well, the independent feasibility study done by SLR Consulting shows some really positive results.
Okay.
They're projecting a production of 2.5 million tons of salt every year for 34 years.
That's a lot of salt.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about the profitability? What's the financial outlook looking like?
It's strong. Their after-tax internal rate of return, the IRR, is 18.5%.
Okay, for those of us who aren't financial wizards, what does that number actually mean?
It basically means it's a really profitable project, especially for a mining project.
So this is looking like a financial success story.
It is their after-tax net present value. The
Yeah.
NPV is $553 million.
Okay, hold on, back up a second. NPV.
Right.
Can you break that one down for me?
So the NPV is basically the current value of all the future cash flows from the project.
Okay.
Discounted to today's dollars, and a positive NPV means that the project is expected to be profitable over its lifetime.
Okay, that makes sense. So high IRR, high NPV, sounds like they're in a good spot.
They are, and another reason for that is their low production cost, which is only $23 per metric ton.
Wow, that's low. Okay, and what's their selling price?
Well, they estimate it'll be around $72 a ton.
That's a huge margin. What's
Yeah.
their secret? How are they keeping costs so low?
Well, part of it is their mining methods. They're using continuous miners, which are super efficient,
Okay.
and their integrated conveyor system really streamlines everything from extraction to transportation.
So it's all about efficiency.
Exactly.
Now, what about their growth potential? Is there room to expand?
Definitely, they have a huge resource base, and the infrastructure is already there to support an expansion up to 4 million tons a year.
Wow. So they could double their production.
Yeah, they've built in that flexibility to grow.
That's impressive. They really have it all. The location, the infrastructure, the sustainability, the financial viability. It seems like they've checked all the boxes.
They have, but there's another piece to this puzzle.
Oh, okay. You've got me hooked. What else is there to this story?
Well, they're forming some strategic partnerships that are going to really boost their impact.
Partnerships. This is getting good. Tell me more.
Well, first of all, they've partnered with Scotwood Industries.
Okay. Now, who are they?
They're a big player in the packaged salt market. So this partnership gives Atlas Salt access to Scotwood's huge distribution network and their expertise in packaged salt.
So they're not just mining the salt, they're getting it right to the consumers.
Exactly. And this partnership could lead to sales of 1.25 to 1.5 million tons of packaged salt every year.
That's a game changer.
It is. And that's not the only partnership.
Oh, there's more.
There's more. They've also partnered with Sandvik Mining and Rock Solutions.
And they
We're a global leader in mining equipment and technology.
So now they've got the salt, the distribution, and the top equipment.
Yep, and we're not talking just any equipment.
Oh.
Sandvik is giving them advanced electric mining equipment and helping them create a fully automated mining operation.
Wow, that's next level. And Sandvik is doing more than just providing the equipment, right?
That's right. They're also giving them a $73 million financing package.
Okay, so they're really backing this project.
They are. It shows how much they believe in Atlas Salt.
It's a huge vote of confidence.
It is.
All right, well, we've covered a lot of ground here. But before we dive even deeper, let's take a moment to recap what we've learned so far.
Sure.
We've talked about how Atlas Salt's strategic location in Newfoundland is perfect for tapping into that massive road salt market along the East Coast.
Right. And how their commitment to sustainability is setting a new standard in the industry.
Yeah, with those low emissions and those electric vehicles.
And let's not forget the economic impact. We're talking jobs, local spending, and billions of dollars added to Newfoundland and Labrador's GDP.
It's remarkable how they've been able to achieve all this while still maintaining a strong financial outlook.
Yeah, and those partnerships we talked about, they're really going to streamline their operations and help them reach those new markets.
It's an incredible story so far, and I have a feeling there's even more to uncover.
Oh, yeah, there's definitely more. What do you say? We take a closer look at those green initiatives.
Let's do it.
So we were talking about Atlas Salt's commitment to sustainability.
Yeah, those green initiatives.
Right. This is a big one, especially these days. Environmental concerns are top of mind for everyone. How are they planning to minimize their impact?
They're really trying to use technology to their advantage. Like they're going to have a covered and enclosed conveyor system plus dust collection systems all over. The goal is to, prevent dust and noise from becoming a problem.
Those are good examples of how technology can actually improve environmental performance. It's not just about meeting the minimum requirements, it's about going above and beyond to reduce their footprint.
Right, and they've already done a lot of baseline environmental and biodiversity assessments. They have plans in place to monitor and protect things like the local plants and animals, the natural habitats, and water resources, all throughout the life of the mine.
Adaptive management. Smart approach. You never know exactly what's going to happen with a project this size, so being flexible and responsive to new information is key.
Exactly. Now, one of the most impressive parts of their environmental plan is the use of an all-electric vehicle fleet. And to figure out what that actually means for their emissions, they had Stantec do a full greenhouse gas study.
Stantec, reputable firm.
Yeah. And the results are pretty amazing, actually. Their projected direct emissions are just 79 tons of CO2 equivalent per year.
Wow.
And their indirect emissions are about 2,293 tons. But here's a key number. Their overall GHG emissions intensity is about 950 tons of CO2 equivalent for every million tons of salt they produce.
That's a new benchmark for the industry, at least on paper. This could have a ripple effect, encouraging other companies to follow suit and adopt similar practices. But the real question is, can they actually achieve these targets during operation? And how will they track and report on their emissions to ensure transparency and accountability?
Good questions. Now, their commitment to sustainability goes beyond just emissions.
Right.
The mine itself is designed to have a small footprint throughout its whole life. And they even have a plan for restoring the ecosystem once the mine closes.
Thinking long-term, that's important. It's not just about minimizing the negative impacts during operation, it's about actively contributing to the ecosystem's long-term health.
Exactly. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about community engagement.
Yeah. How are they working with the locals?
They've been pretty proactive, I would say. They've been holding town hall meetings to give project updates and get feedback.
Transparency.
Yeah, they're working with local leaders and indigenous groups to, make sure the project benefits everyone.
Collaboration is key.
They've even set up a local office in the community just to show they're present and, accessible.
Actions speak louder than words. It's one thing to talk about community engagement, but actually being present and accessible shows a real commitment to working with the community.
And they're not just talking, they're actually supporting local food banks, too, including some run by First Nations groups.
That's a tangible way to demonstrate their commitment to the community's well-being. It's not just about jobs and economic benefits, it's about contributing to the community's social fabric. It's a reminder that resource development, when done responsibly, can benefit everyone involved.
Now, to show they're committed to transparency, Atlas Salt released their first ESG report in August 2024. It's called The Path to a Sustainable Legacy. And it basically lays out their performance in areas like health, safety, environmental matters for the year 2023.
Publicly reporting on their ESG performance is a good sign. It shows they're willing to be held accountable for their actions.
Right. So the report focuses on three main sustainability goals.
Okay.
1, maintaining their social license.
The social license is essential.
2, developing a market for what they're calling clean salt.
Interesting.
And 3, minimizing their environmental impact. They acknowledge that earning and keeping the community's trust is vital for their success.
Absolutely. And that trust is earned through actions, not just words. It's about continuous engagement, transparency, and a genuine commitment to responsible operations.
Yeah, and they acknowledge the growing demand for, sustainably sourced products.
Right.
They're really trying to position their salt as a clean, low-carbon alternative, hoping to appeal to consumers and businesses that care about the environment.
It's a smart business move. Tapping into that market for sustainable products can give them a real edge. But they'll need to back up their claims with solid evidence and be transparent about their practices.
Oh, for sure. Actions speak louder than words.
Exactly.
And their focus on reducing their environmental footprint, using electric equipment, aiming for a minimal surface impact, and having those plans for land reclamation. It all ties into that.
It's good to see them thinking long-term and considering the whole life cycle of their project. It's not just about minimizing the negative impacts during operation, but also about leaving a positive legacy after the mine closes. They're really setting a new standard, and what's even more impressive is that they're doing all this without hurting their bottom line.
Yeah, we talked about their financial projections earlier, and it's great that they're not sacrificing sustainability to make money.
It shows that sustainability and profitability can go hand in hand.
Right. It's about creating a win-win for the community and the environment.
Exactly. Now let's circle back to the economic impact for a minute.
Okay.
We talked about the big numbers, but let's look at the tangible benefits for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Yeah, let's break it down. What do those billions of dollars actually mean for people?
Well, first of all, this project is expected to create between 170 and 250 direct jobs at the mine.
Wow, that's a lot of jobs.
It is, and those are good jobs, well-paying, skilled positions.
Yeah, that can really make a difference for families.
Exactly, and it's not just about the direct jobs. There's a ripple effect throughout the economy.
Right, one job at the mine can create multiple jobs in other industries.
That's right, and all that economic activity generates more tax revenue for the government.
Which means more money for healthcare, education, infrastructure.
It's a win-win for everyone. More jobs, more business, more government revenue.
So the benefits really spread out.
They do, and Atlas Salt has said that they're committed to hiring locally whenever possible.
Oh, that's great.
They want to make sure that the people of Newfoundland and Labrador benefit the most from this project.
It's about creating opportunities for the people who live there.
Exactly. And they've been really good about engaging with the community, holding town hall meetings, working with Indigenous groups.
This sounds like they're doing everything right.
They're really putting in the effort to be a good neighbor.
Now I want to hear more about that partnership with Scottwood Industries.
Oh, yeah, that's a really interesting one.
So what's the story there? How did that partnership come about?
It's all about synergy. Atlas Salt has the salt, and Scottwood has the expertise and the network in the packaged salt market.
So they both saw the potential for a win-win.
Exactly. Atlas Salt gets their product to the consumers, and Scottwood gets a reliable source of high-quality salt.
And it's more than just a supplier-buyer relationship, right?
It is. They actually formed a joint venture for distribution and sales in Canada.
Wow, a joint venture. That's a big commitment.
It shows they're serious about working together long-term.
That could be huge for them.
It opens up a massive new market, and it really shows the value of that partnership.
What about that other partnership, the one with Sandvik?
Yes, the tech partnership.
Tell me all about it. What are they bringing to the table?
Well, we talked about the electric mining equipment,
Right.
but they're also an integrated project delivery partner.
What does that mean?
They're involved in every aspect of the project from the beginning to the end.
Wow. So they're not just a supplier. They're like a consultant.
Exactly. They're bringing their expertise to make sure everything runs smoothly, and they're really good at automation and digitalization.
So they're helping Atlas Salt go high-tech.
They are. They're helping them create a fully automated mining operation.
What does that even look like?
Think driverless trucks, remotely controlled drills and excavators.
Wow, that's like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It's the future of mining, and Sandvik is helping to make it happen.
And they're putting their money where their mouth is with that $73 million financing package.
It's a big investment, but it shows how much they believe in this project.
Definitely. And it also highlights the importance of partnerships in the mining industry these days.
Yeah, no company can do it all alone anymore. It takes collaboration.
That's a great point. Now, I want to zoom out a bit and talk about the bigger picture.
Sure. What are you thinking about?
Well, for starters, what does this project mean for the North American salt market as a whole?
That's a great question, and I think it has the potential to really shake things up.
In what way?
Well, North America imports a lot of its salt, remember?
25%.
Right. And Atlas Salt could really reduce that reliance on imports, especially on the East Coast.
So they're creating a more secure domestic supply.
Exactly. And that's important because we've seen how vulnerable global supply chains can be.
You're right. Things can change quickly, and it's good to have a reliable source at home.
And it's not just about salt. This applies to all kinds of resources.
So it's about building a more resilient economy.
Exactly. And Atlas Salt's commitment to sustainability is another big factor.
Right. They're setting a new standard.
Consumers are paying more attention to these things now.
People want to know where their products come from and how they're made.
And Atlas Salt is showing that you can produce high-quality salt in a responsible way.
It's a compelling story.
It is. Now, before we move on, I want to touch on one more thing.
Okay, what's that?
It's the role of innovation.
They're not just mining salt, they're finding new ways to do it better.
Right. The electric vehicles, the automation, the renewable energy, they're pushing the boundaries.
It's inspiring to see a company that's not afraid to innovate.
And it reminds us that we have the power to solve big challenges with technology.
So as we head into the final part of our deep dive, what are some of the key takeaways you want our listeners to think about?
Well, I think the biggest one is that sustainability and profitability can go hand in hand. Atlas Salt is proving that.
They're setting a great example for other companies.
And another key takeaway is the importance of collaboration. Atlas Salt's success is largely due to their partnerships.
Those partnerships are really what make this whole thing work.
Exactly. And finally, I think Atlas Salt's story shows us the power of innovation. We can create a better future if we embrace new ideas and technologies.
It's a pretty impressive story.
Yeah, they've really thought of everything.
They have. But before we wrap up, I want to kind of zoom out a little bit and talk about the bigger picture.
Sure. What aspects are you thinking about?
Well, for me, one of the things that really stands out is this idea of security of supply. We often just assume that things like salt will always be there.
Right, we take it for granted.
We do. But Atlas Salt really highlights how important it is to have reliable domestic sources, especially these days when global supply chains are so fragile.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've seen what can happen when things get disrupted.
Right. Pandemics, wars, all sorts of things could throw a wrench in the works.
And having a secure supply of essential resources like salt can really help to mitigate those risks.
It's about reducing our dependence on foreign imports and making sure we have what we need when we need it.
Exactly. And at a price we can afford.
It's about building a more resilient economy and a more resilient way of life.
And it's not just about salt. This applies to all kinds of critical resources: energy, food, minerals, technology.
It's a whole system.
It is. And Atlas Salt is a great example of this larger trend of reshoring and regionalizing supply chains.
It's about bringing things closer to home.
Exactly. So it's not just about supporting local businesses. It's about national security and long-term prosperity.
And another big takeaway for me is the importance of sustainability in business.
Yeah, Atlas Salt is a great example of that too.
They're proving that you can be profitable and environmentally responsible at the same time.
It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Their commitment to reducing emissions and using renewable energy, it's not just good for the planet, it's good for business.
And it's good for their reputation.
Exactly. Consumers are paying more attention to these things than ever before.
They want to support companies that align with their values.
So companies that prioritize sustainability are not just doing the right thing, they're also setting themselves up for success in the long run. Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure having you, and thanks to all of our listeners for joining us on this journey into the world of Atlas Salt.
Thanks for tuning in. For more great investing content, follow us and subscribe to this podcast on YouTube at youtube.com/@ValueTheMarkets or on your favorite podcast platform. Also, subscribe to our newsletter, the Investing Intel newsletter, for your weekly feed of investing ideas, opportunities, and market intel relevant to retail investors. Visit investingintel.valuethemarkets.com. Today's episode was a sponsored edition, produced and disseminated on behalf of Atlas Salt Inc. The full disclosure for this episode can be found in the show notes or at valuethemarkets.com/disclosure/Atlas-Salt-Inc.